Sukuya nade, olarom by Mando'a lessons. Today, we're talking about sentences. What is a sentence? A sentence can be a declarative statement, an imperative command, or an interrogative question, and it is made of clauses, which are thoughts. An independent clause is a complete thought and forms a simple sentence, while a dependent clause is incomplete thought and needs to be added to an independent clause to form a complex sentence. Let's start with a declarative independent clause. But how do you make an independent clause? Well, these are formed of a subject and a predicate. In the most simplest of independent clauses, the subject will contain just one noun, while the predicate will contain just one verb. So let's pick some for example. Ni, I, will be my subject. Kuyir, to be, will be my verb. This is almost a complete sentence. However, the infinitive must be conjugated. This is done by removing the terminal R. Therefore, ni kui, I am, or I exist. But this is boring and only 2 words. So let's add more. The predicate can also contain an object. An object can be a noun, an adjective, even an infinitive. Let's see how it works. Ni akani verd. I fight warrior. Ni sirish. I am cold. Ni kui oyashir. I exist to live. Which sounds weird, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's just a sentence. Now that we have these parts, but one of them still only has 2 words, and that's because the subject and the object are understood to be linked, and when this occurs, kuyir can be dropped from the sentence. It can't in the other, because it's essential to understand the meaning. A simpler way to see it is if kuyir can be replaced with an equal sign, it can be dropped. Ni kui sirish, ni equals sirish, ni sirish. But this isn't all we can do to add to the clause. Each part doesn't have to be a single word. You can add modifiers, prepositions, etc. to subjects, verbs, objects to make a phrase. You can also have indirect objects and objects of infinitives and all of that. Rugla adat denui nadala skran bat gaid ba anade kuyir brikase, which is a mouthful, but the old person gives hot food on a plate to everyone to be happy. This is still one clause, just really drawn out. But what if we want more than one clause? Dependent clauses have a subject and a predicate too, and they add to already existing clauses and modify a part of it. Adjective clauses modify a noun, while adverbial clauses modify a verb, obviously. Adjective clauses start with a relative pronoun. Fortunately, Mando'a only has one, meg, while adverbial clauses start with a subordinate conjunction. Let's go back to the ni akani verd example. Ni akani verd is I fight the warrior. So let's add an adjective clause to ni. Ni meg Mando'ad akani verd. I, who is a Mandalorian, fight the warrior. And this uses the relative pronoun meg. Let's add another dependent clause, but this time adverbial. Ni meg Mando'ad akani verd jorku kesh aroeti. I, who is Mandalorian, fight the warrior because they're a traitor. The because is describing the action, why we are doing it. And there you go, that's the basics of making a declarative sentence. Pretty much everything carries over that you just learned to the other types of sentences. In an imperative sentence, the same structure is used. You just add que to the beginning of a statement to make a command. Commands, by their nature, are in the second person, so the subject will always be you, and since it's always you, it's always dropped. Let's take some examples. Kakani ved, fight the warrior. Keshadla ivinish, move fast. For interrogatives, you also use the same structure as declarative, only it's not restricted to the second person like imperative. In order to make a statement into a yes or no question, you add tion to the beginning of the sentence. This word has no inherent meaning. It's basically like a spoken question mark at the beginning of a sentence. For example, Gara kani ved means you fight the warrior. Tion gara kani ved means do you fight the warrior? Remember, it doesn't mean do, it just means question. So, you fight the warrior, question? Tion gara kani ved. But there are also words used in combination with tion that give it some meaning, like tionad, which means who. Remember, this doesn't literally mean what person, but that's how it's used. Tionad garakani, who do you fight? Or which person do you fight? Tionjur akani verd is why do you fight the warrior? What reason do you fight the warrior? One final thing I want to mention in all of this is that this is what is somewhat standard. But standardness doesn't really matter in colloquial speech, which is why in some common phrases, the word order might not match the sentences. And like, for example, biknis kanadin, which is subject, indirect object, object, verb, which just looks weird. But then they might also not even bother using interrogative or imperative prefixes, like in haili setare or mekopani, which mean fill your boots or what do you want, respectively. Keep in mind that these are exceptions to the rules. When you're trying to learn, follow the rules, more or less, and you'll grasp a better understanding of why colloquial phrases break them in the first place. For example, with me doesn't mean something is automatically a question by you putting that in front of it. Me means what, literally this time. The full question would be tion me kopani, what you want, question. But since it's already understood to be a question outright, they just drop it from the sentence, just like they drop everything else that they think is unnecessary. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. This has probably been one of the most requested topics over time, so I hope it helps, and if not, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can't guide you with your specific issue. If you happen to be on my Discord, you're much more likely to reach me quickly, and I am going to start hosting a voice chat for the community to ask questions and practice the speech. I may change days or times around as needed, but I hope to do it regularly, and for now I'm going to start midday on Saturday, and that's US Central. And so come join the Discord, whether or not you want to do it for that. It's a great place, has great resources. So yeah, see y'all later. Retour chez me.